Hello everybody, this is Akshat Vijay. I'm gonna read you the story book Geronimo Stilton, The Valley of Giant Skeletons. Chapter 1 My Worst Nightmare. It was late, very late. The new cat clock in my office let out a 12 terrifying meows. I cringed. The clock was a transfer present from my obnoxious cousin Trap. He loves to scare me, which is easy. You see, I'm a bit of a fraidy mouse, and oops, almost forgot to introduce myself. My name is Stilton, Geronimo Stilton. I run the most popular newspaper in New York City. It's called the Rodents Gazette. I also write adventure books. In fact, that is why I was still in the office. I was working on my latest novel. Too bad I couldn't think of anything to write. I stared at a pile of crumpled papers in my wastebasket. Rats! My mind was totally blank. The only adventure I could think of were the ones I'd already written about. Like this time I met a band of pirate cats, or the time I went to the North Pole, or the time the pesky little mouse named Bugsy Wugsy and I discovered a mummy. I looked out of the window. It was dark and spooky. That gave me an idea. Maybe I could write about ghosts. I shivered as I began to write a story about ghosts. Chapter 1. It was time when all good mice should be home snug in their beds. But where was I? I was stuck in the creepy old castle. That's right, stuck somewhere or something had locked me inside. I raced up a long, dark staircase, looking for a way out. At the top of the staircase, I found a small door. Slowly, I began to. Slowly, I pulled the door open. Creak. What was behind the door? Who knows? I could type another word. That's because the lights in my office had suddenly gone out. Yeah, and I also want to tell you about this cool app that you can download in your PC to read books. So, and yeah, it's called. You can get it on Microsoft Store, and uh, it's called. You can see right here, Book Bazaar. You can see right here. It says Book Bazaar Reader. You can read EPUBs and other PDFs or anything using this. Well, I use this for reading a lot of my books, such as all the Geronimo Stilton and other things. Well, you can also download the books from two websites. One is Z Library. It has almost every book, but in different types like EPUB, FB, AWZ, 3 and all those different types. But in there's another website called Decent Books. Well, you don't get every book in this website, but you get a few books that you can download whether PDF or EPUB. It's basically an ebook. That's your choice. But in Z library you don't get your own choice. But sometimes there'll be different types of the same book present. Well, now let's continue reading. A voice pierced the darkness. It shrieked, Geronimo! I was scared out of my fur. Who was it? I stammered. It is I, your worst nightmare, the voice called. A minute later, the lights flickered back on. My cousin Trap stood in front of me. He was laughing so hard, tears rolled down his whiskers. You're such a frail mouse, Jimmy, still he snorted. He plopped down on a chair as he put his dirty paws on my desk. Then he picked his snout. I groaned, Oh, why did my cousin have to be so disgusting? He really was the worst, my man. Do you mind getting your paws off my desk, Grumpy? My cousin pretended not to hear me. Instead, he pulled out a large bag of cheese popcorn. Then he began to shovel the popcorn down his mouth like a starving rat. Sticky oranges cheese, Sticky orange cheese dribbled down his mouth. It splattered all over my desk. I was livid. Do you mind? He shrieked. Can't you see I'm trying to write here? You can't even write a shopping list. Chapter 2. My cousin rolled his eyes. He pointed to the papers spilling out of my wastebasket. Looks like you're not writing much anyway, he smoothed. What's the matter, Berry Berry? Fresh out of eyes? Now it's really funny. For one thing, I hate it when my cousin calls me Berry Berry, and the other thing, I hate it when he is right. I was fresh out of ideas. I was even fresh out of stale ideas. My mouth was totally blank. But I was in a bottle at trap now that with a squeak I began typing away like a maniac. I'd show him I wasn't all washed up. Type faster and faster. I typed faster and faster. My paws practically flew over the keys. What was I writing about? My trip to the Costa Rican rainforest, my journey across the Atlantic Ocean. Well, not exactly. To be honest, wasn't writing an adventure story at all. I was busy typing out a shopping list. I had been to the squeak. I hadn't been to the stop and squeak in a few days, and there was hardly a nibble left in my refrigerator. I was so busy thinking about the food that I almost forgot my cousin. Just then, I realized. Hold on. He was standing over me. I tried to cover up my computer screen, but it was too late. What's this, Mister? Cheese, milk, flour? You're not writing a new novel, you're just writing a shopping list, he spoke with a smile. I said, okay, I'll admit it. I'm having a little trouble coming up with ideas. My cousin snickered. He pulled up a magnifying glass out of his back pocket. He held up his eyes up to it and pretended to peer in my ear. Anyone home? He squeaked. You're right, Jerikins. It looks like your brain is completely skipped town. He laughed. It looks like your brain is completely skipped town. He laughed. So hard a button popped off his shirt. I groaned. But before I could run out of the door, Trap threw his paws around my shoulder. Don't worry about the old brain geronimo. I just got the cure. You see, I brought you a little present. A present that'll leave you bursting with ideas, he said. That's when I noticed Trap had placed something on my desk. It was very old looking piece of yellowed paper. The paper was wrapped around a gigantic bone. How strange. A gigantic bone? The Valley of Giant Skeletons, Gobi Desert, Mongolia, I'm sorry, where you can see the map. A map of Mongolia? Check this out, Jimister, my cousin squeaked. Carefully, he slid the document of the bone. I was so intrigued, I didn't even mind the name calling. The yellowed paper was actually an old map. I picked up the magnifying glass and peered at it closely. It was an old map of the Gobi Desert in Mongolia, but there were odd names written on it. Valley of Giant Skeletons, Bonehole Peak, Mystery Mountain, Matatarus River, Vertebrate Grotto, Bones Lake, Plains of Secret, Tibia Hills. I squinted at my cousin. How do you know this map is real? I asked my mind filling with doubt. Trap's eyes sparkled. I know it's real because I found it, he squeaked proudly. Then he lowered his voice mischievously. I found it in the trunk in my house. He explained it belonged to great Uncle Wally. Come on, I'll show you. We left the office and headed for Trap's house. Do you know where my cousin lives? It's a very unique place. You see, he lives in an old train car called Orient Express. It belonged to our great Uncle Wally, also known as the Wandering Wally. He lived in the 1800s, and was an explorer. He was always roaming around the world in search of mysterious treasures. Uncle Wally had turned the train car into a beautiful home. It was a comfortable living room, cozy dining area, and even a small breakfast bar. And of course, there was plenty of light in the train because of all the windows. In the sleeping compartment, there's an actual antique bed with a beautiful brass brass headboard. And for the guests, there's a small bunk bed that goes up or down with the pull of a lever. The bathroom is made of the finest marble, and the faucet is solid gold. I'm sorry. This is Trap's house. Number one, you can see the bathroom right here, or here. Number two, you can see the bed right over here, and the bunk bed for the guests is right here. You can see, well, I don't know how you get it up, but the bunk bed for guests is right here. The kitchen is right. Hold on, the kitchen is right here. Well, this is my first time reading it, so I don't know much. The five table is right here. The velvet sofas are right here. The breakfast bar is right here, and coffee maker is right here. Uncle Wally Stilton's trunk. When we got to his house, Trap led me straight to the bedroom. I tried not to notice the piles of dirty laundry, cobwebs, three half-eaten sandwiches on the floor. Did I mention my cousin is a total slob? This is where I found a trap squeak, picking up one of the old sandwiches and shoveling it into his mouth. About a month ago, I dropped a coin next to my bed. When I bent to pick it down, I noticed there was a hidden button in the wooden platform. I pushed it, and suddenly a secret compartment popped out. Inside, it was the trunk. Trap showed me a big wooden trunk. At the base of the bed, there was a secret button. I pushed it. Or here, this is the button. You can see the arrow pointing at it. Suddenly, a secret compartment popped out. It was inside. It was inside. It was this trunk. You can see the chest sort of treasure chest sort of place, but without any treasure. The trunk. It was locked with a large padlock stamped on the locks with the initial WS. Trap fit a tiny key into the lock. Then he opened the trunk. I let out an excited squeak. The trap was filled out with different things Uncle Wally had used on his adventures. Uh, there was an old pick, a flat dish for panning gold. There was a compass he had used when he searched for the treasure in the Gulf of Mexico. There was even a canteen he had carried when he crossed the Mausera Desert. There was a paddle that he had used on the Amazon River. There was an old pair of skis he had used when he went to the North Pole. And much more uh, chewed to bits. Well, this is the end of part one. You can get my part two in the next video. I'll send it. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you and bye.